Conspiracy theories and obsessions with revenge are decimating the career.
So just to be clear, we get to spy on you over and over and over again. When you protest, we go, this is a conspiracy theory. This is outrageous. This is an outrageous conspiracy. How dare you want to hold us accountable? Now, does anyone remember what Arctic Frost, what was Jack Smith's investigation? January 6th is basically right. Jack Smith, the scope of it was, I looked up exactly what the scope was. Multifaceted conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election so Trump could remain in office. Mostly they were looking at the fake electors, the alternate electors. This was called Arctic Frost. Now, what we've learned about Arctic Frost is they were basically spying on every influential Republican. 20% of the Republicans in the U.S. Senate were spied upon. Susie Wiles and Kash Patel were spied upon. Now we know that Kash Patel is a private citizen at the time. They basically got every fucking record of his for 2 years. Phone calls, emails. Imagine the Trump administration right now spying on 20% of the Democrats in the Senate based on some bullshit. Well, Biden tried to do something wrong, so now we have to spy on the Democrats in the Senate. 2 years later, it would literally be, Trump would be impeached immediately. It'd be the biggest scandal in the history of the country, according to our media, according to the Democrats. This shit happened. Not only did they spy him, but here's the kicker. They did so in a way that the senators didn't even know that they were being targeted. And who signed off on the warrants? The same judge that's continually been a thorn in the side of Trump when it came to Garcia, the alleged MS-13 member, Kilmar Abreu Garcia, that's ruled against Trump on a litany of cases, that gave Kevin Kleinsmith, the dude that forged documents to try to get a FICE warrant against Trump's team, a slap on the wrist, Judge Boasberg. He signed off on warrants. And in these warrants against Republican senators, he said that the Republican senators could not be informed that their data was being collected because there was a risk they would destroy records. Now think about that for a second. A judge saying that we need to secretly spy on 20% of the Republicans in Senate, and if they knew their records were being subpoenaed, they were flight risks or they would destroy the records, etc. I just want you to imagine what that would look like if the shoe was on the other foot. Imagine if a Trump-appointed judge allowed the Trump FBI to spy on 20% of Democratic senators and a bunch of other Democrats and say, and it has to be in secret. They can't even know because we don't trust these Democrats. They'd be at risk to destroy the evidence. And here's the kicker. What was the crime? Why did we need to spy on 20% of the senators, Republican senators? Why? Because maybe they were involved in the alternate electors? Do you see the absurdity of this? Now, we have White House coming up, who's the ranking Democrat. And I haven't seen this. I will guarantee that this is all about Trump tried to steal an election. This was all routine. If it appears that it's not routine, it's because the actions that Donald Trump took were so terrible. And this is just about once more, another attack on legitimate law enforcement, FBI. That's what this is. Just attacks. It's just Trump. It's what he does. It's what the Republicans do. Attack legitimate law enforcement.
Last month, Kash Patel fired roughly a dozen agents and analysts from the FBI's CI-12 unit, a counterintelligence unit dedicated to protecting Americans from foreign espionage. One of the foreign actors that this unit specializes in is Iran and its proxies. According to CNN, this unit was, and I quote, instrumental in tracking potential threats.
So here we go. They spied on all these senators. How would you feel if they spied on you and lied about it? How would you feel? Trump's team fired some people. You may notice the non sequitur, the red herring here.
The Trump administration killed a top Iranian official in 2020. Just days after Patel fired these agents, President Trump,
yes, this is from today,
started a war in Iran that has already led to the deaths of at least 13 American service members. If it seems like a bad decision to fire career law enforcement professionals who who specialize in defending against Iranian threats just days before we start a war with Iran? That's because it is.
I mean, even for Democrats, this is exceedingly weak. This is your opening salvo? Hey, you spied on basically every Republican organization. You spied on 20% of Republican senators. Like, what do you guys have to say about that? How would you feel if it was you? It was all three branches that allowed this to occur. A judge said that we couldn't know about the subpoenas, us senators, because we destroy evidence. How would you feel, Mr. Whitehouse, Senator Whitehouse, if that was you? Trump's team fired some intel people that supposedly have information about Iran as we attacked Iran. That sounds bad. And let's not forget, Trump overfed those koi fish. Don't forget about that. And by the way, what's up with, his orange skin? That's bad. Didn't he tell people to drink bleach? Anyways, let's run out the clock on this hearing, shall we?
And it's even worse when you consider why Patel fired these agents. These agents had been assigned to Jack Smith's investigation into Donald Trump's illegal hoarding of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Patel claims that as part of that investigation, Jack Smith issued grand jury subpoenas for toll records for Patel and for Susie Wiles when they were private citizens. Patel also insists that the FBI recorded one of Wiles's phone calls, which her own attorney has denied.
No, that's not true. Her attorney denied, I believe, if I got this story correct, the FBI's version was the attorney gave them authorization to record it. The attorney said that's not true, I didn't. That's the attorney's denial. Unless I'm wrong, I believe that's what's going on, which is another huge story.
If you ask anyone with law enforcement experience to react to news that the FBI may have sought these toll records, the response is simple. Of course they did. Virtually every investigation involves subpoenas for toll records for any number of reasons.
Okay, fine, fair enough. I accept this. Spy on every Democrat organization. No problem. Any crime, there's an organization of people that are engaged in violence and intimidation to go against ICE. Now spy on every Democrat. I don't want to hear a fucking word from the Democrats. Every law enforcement official will say, of course, if there's an investigation, they're looking for toll records. Now, think about the implication here. All of these organizations, the RNC, Turning Point USA, 12 Republican senators, blah, 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 blah. You spied and got all these records, and White House is like, of course, if you're investigating, you get the toll records. The issue isn't that we're saying that if you're doing an investigation, you can't get toll records. It is how expansive it was. Imagine it this way. It'd be like saying, wouldn't you say over the course of an investigation, there's likely to be someone put in handcuffs? Yeah, we'd all agree. If there's an investigation into a crime, the likelihood of someone being put in handcuffs is. So if Trump's team decides to put 400 and something Democrats in handcuffs, if I said, if you ask law enforcement, they say over the course of an investigation, it's quite common to put someone in handcuffs. Do you think the Democrats would say, of course, makes sense? Or would they say, wait, what the fuck? What's that have to do with the fact that you just handcuffed 400 something Democrats? Do you see this sort of bait and switch here? Well, if it's ever justified in any investigation to get toll records, then clearly it's no problem that we did it to 400 and something organizations and people. Clearly not, right? That's just how investigations work. Investigate all of our political opponents. That's just how it works.
Sometimes it's to construct a timeline of events. Sometimes it's to rule out wrongdoing. Sometimes it's to prepare for a witness interview. Sometimes it's to help understand the scope of a conspiracy.
Fair enough. Again, mark this down. If it turns out there's investigations into Democrat and records are subpoena, just remember, all the Democrats, maybe they were just rolling you out. That's why they were spying on your records. They just wanted to roll you out. They were just setting up a timeline. That's all it was. It was for your good, White House, that they spied on you, just to roll you out. I mean, unless you did something and then fuck off, right? That's a new one. Hey, we're going to violate your Fourth Amendment, senators, Republicans, all of our opponents, but it's just to roll you out. That's all. It's just to roll out that you didn't do anything wrong. Oh, that's nice. Okay, No problem. The shamelessness of this is fucking unbelievable.
In fact, the first Trump DOJ did the same thing Republicans have criticized Jack Smith for doing, getting the toll records of members of Congress, following the DOJ policies then in place, and getting non-disclosure orders.
Show me.
Here's what Chairman Grassley said at the time. Investigation into members of Congress and staff are nothing new. The Justice Department has specific procedures for such sensitive investigations. Apparently, when the Trump DOJ does it, it's nothing new. When Jack Smith does it, it's a modern.
So, cursory look at this is against Schiff and Swalwell, and it was for leaks, for leaking to the press. Two
Watergate.
Democrats, as opposed to hundreds of organizations, and with actual leaks that we could see coming out, as opposed to, well, we think that maybe you talked about alternate electors.
With Patel, it's obvious why Jack Smith was looking at him. Patel made himself a fact witness in that investigation. He went on podcasts bragging about how he planned to post classified information online at Donald Trump's direction, and how he'd personally witnessed Donald Trump declassify records. We have known for years that Smith was looking into Patel's role because Smith subpoenaed Patel to testify before a grand jury. Where is Patel's grand jury testimony? Why is that still hidden? The same goes for Ms. Wiles. Wiles is referenced in the indictment against President Trump because Trump showed her classified documents when she didn't have a security clearance. The same month that indictment came out, the PAC Wiles ran received its highest payment ever from the Trump campaign. That's another thing that any investigator worth their salt would take.
Okay. Well, when it comes to classified information being given out, Swalwell, right? Schiff. Keep in mind, it's not just the toll records of Susie Wiles and Kash Patel. New evidence has came out that they were basically going through every area of Kash Patel's life for 2 years. So I assume White House would say, no problem. Any talk of people mishandling classified documents on the Democrat side, totally go through their life with the microscope, correct?
The same goes for the rest of the subpoenas my colleagues on the other side want to talk about today. Jack Smith was investigating a massive conspiracy by Trump officials and their allies to overturn an election and attack the Capitol on January 6th. Is anyone surprised that he issued subpoenas as part of that investigation?
No, I'm not surprised that Jack Smith was corrupt and went after all of these organizations. We're not. By the same token, the FBI is engaged, including, and now Jack Smith, in corruption to try to overturn an election. They did so in 2026. They put their thumb on the scale in 2020. They did so in 2024. So I assume we'd be fine subpoenaing every Democrat organization. Correct, White House? Of course not.
As Smith told the House Judiciary Committee under oath, his investigation, quote, involved interviewing and subpoenaing records of Republicans because that's who Donald Trump sought to prey on to stay in office. Somebody.
See, they had to spy on Republicans because Trump was preying on them. You see? You see how it works? They spied on Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and Josh Hawley because Trump was preying on them. It was to help them. Don't you see? Oh, well, when that's the case, I think that the Trump administration really needs to help these Democrats. Let's start investigations on all of them, spying completely on all of them. Because they're being preyed upon by different organizations to help them, right? Wouldn't that be great?
Geared up the Republican Attorneys General Association, or RAGA, to sponsor the rally that turned into the riots on January 6th and pay for robocalls, urging people to march to the Capitol building and fight to protect the integrity of our elections.
Cool. So if we hear any robocalls from Democrats telling people to go fight against ICE, that justifies investigations in the entire Democrat apparatus, correct? Oh, no, that's good. That's free speech. You're allowed to do that. It's just when Republicans say you need to fight for our rights in election, then it's terrible.
Jeffrey Clark, who worked at DOJ at the time, tried to convince the Department of Justice leadership to send a letter to try to overturn the election results in Georgia.
He did what Democrats were planning on doing, which was alternate electors, which, remember, the Transition Integrity Project, led by Podesta, a bunch of other head Democrats, said that this is exactly, war gamed out, this is exactly what Democrats were going to do if they lost. It is a legal challenge. And then to act like, well, because of this legal challenge, we get to spy on the entirety of the Republican apparatus is absurd.
President Trump almost made him acting attorney general because Clark was willing to help Trump try to overturn the election. Pretend for a minute that Jack Smith and all the DOJ and FBI officials who helped his investigation did do something wrong. What would real oversight look like? Well, first, Republicans would accept Jack Smith's offer to testify before this committee under oath, instead of holding a series of hearings on conspiracy theories without anything new to say.
Conspiracy theories? So far, all I heard was, here's all the people they spied on.
Why not call him? Hear it from the man himself. Second, Republicans would let us see Jack Smith's full report on his investigations into President Trump. We only have Volume 1, which explains the subpoenas he issued in the 2020 election interference investigation. We still need Volume 2 on his classified documents crimes.
Yeah, we spied on our entire opposition, and it's a damn shame that we don't have all of the shit we found. We as Democrats, we use Jack Smith and the FBI to spy on the entire Republican Party. We want those documents, damn it. We want the fruits of that. It's only right. That's the argument here.
Democrats on this committee have asked DOJ to give us Volume 2, but Republicans have been silent as President Trump and his MAGA DOJ have fought to bury the report. Third, Republicans would oblige Kash Patel to tell us what he told the grand jury in that classified documents investigation. They might also hold Patel accountable for misleading this committee in sworn testimony. I've asked Patel multiple times under oath to describe his testimony to us, as Rule 6E plainly allows. First, he said he couldn't because it was under seal by the chief judge for the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia.
Now, again, all of this is, we want to talk about January 6th more. We want more details, more. Notice this is a big red herring from the only thing he said about like the massive spying that's occurred that Ted Cruz has talked about in his opening statement here is what was to protect them because Trump was preying upon them. Now, what about Patel? What exactly did Patel say to a grand jury? Who gives a fuck? Have a hearing on it when you guys get in charge. How about this mass spying? How about that? It was for your own good. Anyways, back to January 6th and Patel.
Turns out that very chief judge later said that nothing was preventing Patel from divulging his testimony to this committee as the rule allows. So that testimony was false. When Patel came back, he told another lie, this time that he had already released the transcript of his testimony. Here's the transcript he might have been talking about. As you can see from reading it, oh, wait a minute, you can't read it because it's almost completely redacted. And it's not even from the right hearing. This is from the time Patel appeared before the grand jury in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents crimes case to assert his Fifth Amendment rights because he was afraid of being prosecuted. The testimony that he actually ended up giving once his Fifth Amendment plea was accepted and he was immunized, we have never seen. If this committee is so interested in Jack Smith's investigation, it should want to know what Patel had to say in that investigation, why he was so afraid.
I mean, I just want you to think, Trump tomorrow orders his FBI to spy on every Democrat organization, right? Because they're connected to anti-ICE riots. They do it under secret. They get a bunch of information. They start going after people. Democrats find out years later holy shit, Trump's team did this. And the Republican answer to it is, we did it for your own good because we think that left-wingers were preying upon you. And who gives a fuck about all that? We want to see the testimony that was the result of our fish hunting expedition. That's what we want to see. Fuck all this. Do you think the media would go along with that? You think the Democrats would go along with it? Yeah, forget about the mass spying of Democrats. Forget about that. We're interested in what were the interviews in front of the grand jury. That's what we're interested in.
Say it, and why he's so afraid to tell us about it now, and instead repeatedly lies to this committee. I'll close by talking about what this hearing should be about. Those counterintelligence agents Kash Patel fired aren't the only career law enforcement officials forced out by this administration.
And this is the rub. We have a corrupt FBI that illegally spied on Trump in 2016 and went after him, that put their thumb on the scale in 2020, that did the same shit in 2024. How dare any of them be fired? We demand that they continue to be there. We demand it. We are entitled to corrupt FBI agents that do the bidding of the Democratic Party. How dare Trump do anything and try to fire any of them? That's outrageous. That's what it should be about. Why would you fire the very people that were weaponizing the government against you? How dare you? Meanwhile, when Democrats take over, you think there's a fucking chance, if like Doge is still going, that Democrats are going to be like, oh yes, these people must stay. All these people that Trump and Elon appointed. All the people that Kash Patel appointed. Yep, they must stay. Oh, they spied on all these Democrats. That's okay. They must stay.
Nor are they the only ones purged, because they were assigned to investigate President Trump's crimes. Here's what has happened at the FBI since President Trump took office. The FBI has lost at least 300 agents working on national security matters, transferred agents out of the domestic terrorism operations section, disbanded the Foreign Influence Task Force, and instructed joint terrorism task forces to work on immigration cases.
No shit.
At DOJ.
Wait a minute. You mean they didn't like all work on white supremacy cases in January 6th and going after Trump? And really? He stopped the FBI from doing that and like did shit like, immigration cases and shit because your side let 10 million illegals in? And now you bitch that we don't have enough people to process them? No shit.
More than 6,000 employees have left. The National Security Division has lost up to 1/3 of its leadership.
It's not enough. FBI should have been disbanded. We needed to lose 90%. None of them should ever work in government again, and there should be criminal investigations to the people at the top.
Half the line prosecutors in the counterterrorism section and half the workforce in the counterintelligence section. Attorney General Bondi disbanded DOJ's Task Force Capture, Kleptocracy Team, and Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative. It is the same story throughout the administration where conspiracy theories and obsessions with revenge are decimating the career.
So just to be clear, we get to spy on you over and over and over again. When you protest, we go, this is a conspiracy theory. This is outrageous. This is an outrageous conspiracy. How dare you want to hold us accountable? We get to weaponize against you, investigate you, do whatever you want, but you don't get to investigate that investigation. That's revenge.
Law enforcement who protect us against national security threats. Major cuts at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Laura Loomer forcing out the heads of the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command. DHS gutting its Office to Prevent Domestic Terrorism and putting a 22-year-old with no experience in charge. And cutting the workforce of CISA, which protects us from cyber security threats from bad actors like Iran. Americans are made less safe every time this committee holds a hearing promoting fake outrage about Jack Smith and denigrating FBI and DOJ professionals. Every time MAGA influencers like Laura Loomer convince the president to fire agency heads. And every time Kash Patel fires FBI experts because he wants to distract from his own incompetence, his wasting of taxpayer dollars to fly around the world on a private jet, his partying at the Olympics, or his undermining of the FBI's own.
How dare he fire anyone And he was at the Olympics partying. Fuck him. Meanwhile, $30 million spent on Jack Smith, who wasn't even appointed properly, to spy on the entirety of the Republican organizations. 20% of Republican Senate. No problem with that money spent, huh?